With Mitt Romney polling strong, many expect him to win, but could an upset happen? Here to discuss that and other storylines to today's primary is Brian Montopoli, senior political reporter for CBSNews.com. Thanks for being with us, Brian.
Great to be here, Betty.
All right, so is it just a foregone conclusion that Mitt Romney will win this primary, or is there a chance he could lose?
It's about as close to a foregone conclusion as it gets. I mean, polls are showing him up maybe 20 points. He's from neighboring Massachusetts. He has a summer home in New Hampshire. He spent a lot of time campaigning there, and it's hard to see him losing. That said, his rivals seem to be closing the gap in the last few days, and politics is about expectations. If he wins by 10 points, that's as good of a loss because the press corps will stress that he's fading, his rivals will get momentum, so what he needs is a big win, not just a win.
Well, speaking of his rivals, Rick Santorum did quite well in the Iowa caucuses, but can he do as strongly in this primary?
It's hard. I mean, New Hampshire is one of the least religious states in the country. Santorum is a big religious social conservative, and it's an independent-minded state. Independents can vote in the primary. Santorum doesn't do terribly well with those folks. But that said, he does seem to have a momentum bump, and Romney's having a hard time crossing, the higher thresholds, 30, 40%. So he shows up with 25%, it still looks pretty good.
So if he comes in maybe second, could that push on to South Carolina and maybe he gains some momentum and actually win that one? Because isn't Romney a little bit vulnerable there? Absolutely.
I mean, South Carolina is a very socially conservative state. They don't trust Romney. They think he's too moderate, and they don't trust his record as Massachusetts governor. Rick Santorum is made for a state like South Carolina. But the problem with Rick Santorum is he doesn't have much of a campaign apparatus. This is a guy who was on a shoestring budget basically all throughout his time in Iowa. His strength was retail politics. I still am skeptical that Rick Santorum, even if he does well in New Hampshire, has a real shot at this nomination. He's just doesn't have the sort of operation that you need to be successful over the long haul.
Let's get to some of the issues that they're talking about. It seems like Rick Perry and Newt Gingrich have really been hammering Mitt Romney about being a corporate raider. Is that hurting him?
I mean, this is, I think, a hugely important moment in the campaign. You have Republican rivals of the frontrunner, Mitt Romney, basically making the same argument that Occupy Wall Street makes against Republicans and makes against Romney. They say you are part of the 1%, you're a corporate raider. Gingrich's super PAC is going to go up with over $3 million in ads in South Carolina, hammering him on this, featuring people who are laid off after Romney's company, Bain, purchased their company. I mean, this is a real problem for them, and it's a real moment of truth for the Republican Party. Are they going to align with Mitt Romney and what folks like Newt Gingrich are essentially casting as the 1%, or are they going to try to be populist? Are they going to try to make sort of a working-class Republican argument? It's a big moment for the party, and what happens is going to be hugely important in the primary and into the general election.
Speaking of those moments of truth, Jon Huntsman has really put all of his eggs in this one basket. Can New Hampshire deliver for him? And if it doesn't, is he pretty much out?
If he doesn't do well in New Hampshire, absolutely he is done. I mean, this is a guy who's been camped out there in New Hampshire, much like Santorum and Michelle Bachmann, who's no longer in the race, were camped out in Iowa. And if you don't do well in the state where you're camped out, then you're done. Huntsman's strategy is do a little bit better than expected in New Hampshire, maybe take a surprise second place, maybe get 25% of the vote, which would be great for him there, and then try to hang on as some of the rivals drop out. Huntsman has an issue with not having a lot of money, but Huntsman also has a very wealthy father who could pour a lot of money into a super PAC backing Huntsman and allow him to stay in the race long enough to narrow it down to a one-man race with Mitt Romney, two-man race with Mitt Romney, and then anything could happen. But it's a huge long shot.
All right, we'll be watching. Thanks so much, Brian. As always, we appreciate it.
Great to be here.